Orbital mechanics were constant, humans were variable, however. The regular motion of the heavens transforms from predictable to tactically fluid ones. Human astro-engineers developed the technology to shift planetary orbits in the time of a starship. After humanity's secret orbital manipulation experiments wake the hegemony, an alien civilization that was slowly shuffling planets around the solar system from the outer reaches. Commander Zara Thorne has to face her greatest fear. Mars is rolling towards Earth, and humanity has only 72 hours to do something about it. The humans make an artificial black hole and use random gravity-preferring maelstroms that mess up the hegemony's refined systems, which cause the aliens to withdraw. While needless to say, Earth is safe and the solar system is declared stable, the hegemony swears they will be back and humanity will have to weather the continuing war. Essentially, it shows how mankind's slapdash, mercurial application of technology ultimately proves to be its most potent weapon against an ancient and exacting foe. That it rang out throughout the smooth, metallic corridors of Titan Station, filling the synthetic air with its shrill voice like a knife slicing through silk. Her boots beat against the metal grating as Commander Zara Thorne ran to the command center, her mind already working through contingency plans. However, nothing in her 23-year space career could have prepared her for what she was going to see. In the center of the command deck, a massive holographic display showed the solar system, individual orbs of light that represented heavenly bodies. Mars was simply a tiny red point in the starry blackness, following its old, regular track around the sun. Well, today was supposed to be no exception. Mars right where it belonged. Report. Zara barked, her voice cutting through the cacophony of technicians yelling over blaring alarms. Lieutenant Commander Beck Harrison began checking his console, looking slightly ashen under the bright strip lights. Captain, we are detecting large-scale gravitational anomalies across the outer system, ma'am. It started 18 hours ago as little more than perturbations, but now, he waved his arms helplessly at the display. Jupiter's orbit has changed. By 12,000 kilometers, Saturn's rings are destabilizing, and Mars, double quotes, he paused, swallowing hard. Mars is moving toward Earth. The words hit Zara like a fist to the gut. Rumors had reached her shifty little discussions in the officers' mess about some new research project, about this thing that kept coming up, called the Orbital Dynamics Initiative. She had dismissed them as conspiracy theories, the sort of wild theories that lived in isolated corners of outer space stations. How is that possible? She demanded. Although a chill certainty was already hardening in her belly, the chief astrophysicist of the station, Dr. Elena Vasquez, stepped forward. Even her usually crisp lab coat looked wrinkled and worn, her graying hair disheveled from days without proper sleep. For the past 6 hours I have been going over the data, Commander. The gravitational signatures are artificial. Someone is manipulating planetary orbits with concentrated gravitational fields. For a moment no one spoke in the command center. The only sound, the persistent hum of machinery cutting through the tense silence. 36 eyes were on her, waiting for her to make sense of the absurdity. And Zara felt the weight of impossible responsibility. That's impossible, she finally said. But the statement lacked conviction. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. No civilization has that level of power. No Earth civilization, Dr. Vasquez corrected. But the mathematics check out. This technology exists. And it's weaponized. Zara was hit by the implications like a tsunami. What use were space fleets when someone could freely move planets around? Entire civilizations, whole fleets, entire armies could be crushed under onslaughts of celestial bodies, launched like cosmic artillery shells. Ma'am, Beck's voice cracked slightly. We're receiving a transmission. It's from Admiral Torres aboard the battleship Prometheus. Zara's blood went cold. Humanity's most advanced warship, a kilometer-long beast of steel and plasma weaponry, had been operating on deep black missions in the outer system for months. If Torres was involved, then the rumors about the Orbital Dynamics Initiative were not rumors at all. Put him through, she ordered. The holographic display flickered, the star map fading and being replaced with the lined visage of Admiral Marcus Torres. His steel-gray hair remained neatly combed despite the turmoil, though his dark eyes showed the burden of terrible knowledge. Thorne, he said in a tone that was somewhere between a funeral dirge and grim solemnity. You're probably wondering why Mars is heading toward Earth. The thought had crossed my mind, Zara replied, her voice struggling to remain steady. Care to explain why you're apparently using the solar system like a billiards table? Torres' expression didn't change. There was a reason Project Orbital Dynamics was classified at the highest levels. The technology was originally created to modify planetary orbits in case we needed to defend against asteroid impacts or rogue planets. But 6 months ago, we realized we weren't the only ones with this capability. Then another voice, unfamiliar and harsh, broke into the transmission. Admiral Torres speaks truth, but he omits the most vital part. The screen split, showing Torres on one side and, on the other, a figure in a sleek black uniform. The stranger's face was angular, almost predatory, with pale skin and eyes like chips of ice. Behind him, Zara could see what appeared to be a command center with technology unlike anything in humanity's fleets. The stranger continued, "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Hegemony Fleet Commander Kane Meridian. We have observed your species long enough to know that you would eventually develop the technology necessary to make this war ... interesting." War. Zara found herself speaking before she could stop herself. What war? Kane smiled, and it was a smile like a weapon. Why? The war that will decide the fate of this solar system. Admiral Torres has been testing orbital manipulation technology for months, moving asteroids, redirecting comets, but he forgot that some are watching and others have perfected this art over millennia. Torres's face had gone ashen. "The Hegemony aren't human," he said quietly. "They're an ancient civilization that has been dormant in the outer reaches of the system for thousands of years. We woke them up with our orbital experiments, and now we're reclaiming what is ours," Kane concluded. "This system, these worlds, these resources, you've had a brief time to enjoy them, but that time is ending." The transmission cut out, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Zara's mind reeled, trying to process what she had just learned. An alien civilization more advanced than anything humanity had encountered, hidden in their own solar system. Technology that could move planets like chess pieces. And humanity caught in the middle of a game whose rules they barely understood. "Ma'am," Beck barely managed to get the words out. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the outer system. Everything's moving, it looks like. It looks like they're repositioning everything." The star map returned, but not as it had been before. The entire system was in chaos. Jupiter was moving inward, its massive gravitational field disrupting the asteroid belt and sending debris spiraling toward the inner planets. Saturn was heading outward, its rings fragmenting into a chaos of ice and rubble. And Mars, that blood harbinger of doom, continued its deadly march toward Earth. "How long?" Zara asked, dreading the answer. "At current velocity, Mars will impact Earth in 72 hours, Dr. Vasquez said. Gravitational effects will start tearing our atmosphere apart in 36 hours, 72 hours, 3 days for humanity to find a way to stop the impossible, or watch their homeworld burn. Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Zara ordered. "Prepare to mobilize every ship we have. If we're going to face gods, we'll need every weapon we can muster." Even as she said it, she knew conventional weapons would be useless against beings who could redirect the orbits of planets. What they needed was something different, a counter to the Hegemony's might, and she was beginning to think that Admiral Torres and his secret project might be humanity's only hope. The next hours were a whirlwind of desperate activity. Ships launched from Titan Station, their crews refusing to abandon their posts even though everyone knew it was likely a hopeless fight. Communication channels buzzed with frantic calls from throughout the solar system. As humanity's scattered colonies watched their orderly universe unravel, Zara found herself on the station's observation deck, staring out at the stars through massive transpersonal windows. Jupiter looked larger than she'd ever seen it, its great red spot like a bloodshot eye glaring at the inner system. The movement was too subtle for human perception, but she could feel it in her bones, and her stomach turned at the wrongness of it all. "Commander," Dr. Vasquez said from behind her, "we've received new data from the Prometheus. Torres wants to speak with you privately." Zara turned away from the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. "Patch him through to my quarters. And Doctor, keep monitoring the gravitational anomalies. If we're going to find a way through this, we need to understand how their technology works." Her quarters were sparse and functional, like everything else aboard the station. The holographic communicator flickered to life, showing Torres's face creased with worry and exhaustion. "Commander, what you're about to hear is classified beyond anything you've ever encountered," he began without preamble. "We weren't just experimenting with moving asteroids. We've developed weapons that can alter the fundamental forces of the universe." A chill ran down Zara's spine. "What kind of weapons?" "Gravitational resonance cannons. Devices that can generate localized gravitational fields powerful enough to move planets. We've been testing them in secret, using them for asteroid deflection, but the technology is still experimental with unpredictable results. How unpredictable? Torres was silent for a long moment. The last test nearly tore Jupiter apart. We created a cascade of gravitational anomalies that could have destabilized the entire system. We shut down the project immediately, but it seems the damage was already done. The hegemony noticed. So we have weapons that can match theirs. We have weapons that might be able to match theirs, Torres corrected. But using them risks destroying everything we're trying to protect. We're dealing with gravitational forces beyond anything humanity has ever attempted to control. Zara paced across her cramped quarters, her mind racing. What's the alternative? Let them turn Mars into a wrecking ball. There might be another option, Torres said quietly. The hegemony's technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also ancient. Their methods have been refined over thousands of years, and while they've perfected them, they've also become rigid. That's not our way. We're messier, more chaotic, more unpredictable. Meaning if we introduce enough random variables into their orbital manipulations, we might be able to disrupt them. We make gravity chaotic enough that their precise planetary positioning becomes impossible. It was a desperate plan, based on hope and untested theories. But it was the only plan they had. What do you need from me? Zara asked. I need you to coordinate with the other station commanders. We're going to attempt a synchronized gravitational pulse using every orbital manipulation device in the system. It's never been tried before, and the results could be catastrophic, or will be catastrophic. Torres's smile was grim. I'm not sure there's a difference at this point, Commander. The next 18 hours were longer than any in Zara's life. She contacted station commanders throughout the system, each receiving the same classified briefing, the same desperate orders. The plan was simple in theory but nightmarish in practice. Every human facility capable of gravitational manipulation would simultaneously fire their resonance devices, creating a shockwave of chaotic gravity that would, theoretically, disrupt the hegemony's control over the planets. But there was no margin for error. Too little power, and the plan would fail. Too much power, and they risked tearing the solar system apart themselves. Systems check. Zara's voice crackled over the cum. All stations report status. Europa station, ready, came the first confirmation. One by one the responses came in. Ganymede outpost, ready. Ceres mining facility, ready. Even the tiny research station on Pluto confirmed readiness, their signal taking hours to reach the inner system. Torres's voice crackled through the static. Prometheus standing by. All gravitational resonance cannons online and synchronized. With targeting computers, Zara looked around the command center, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination in her crew's eyes that she felt herself. They were about to attempt something unprecedented, something that could either save humanity or deliver their own version of Armageddon. T-minus 60 seconds, she announced. The seconds ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. On the holographic display, Mars continued its deadly spiral toward Earth, now close enough that tidal effects were beginning to show on both worlds. 30 seconds. Zara's hands trembled as she gripped the activation controls. Everything depended on the next few moments. 10 seconds. The only sound in the command center was the countdown timer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, execute. Zara pressed the activation button, and the universe exploded into chaos. The gravitational resonance device beneath Titan Station fired, waves of warped spacetime radiating outward at the speed of light. Across the solar system, dozens of other devices fired in unison, their combined output creating a symphony of gravitational waves that swept through the system like an invisible tsunami. The holographic display erupted in light fields dancing, oscillating, colliding in patterns that defied comprehension. Jupiter wobbled in its orbit, its massive bulk heaving like a ship in a storm as competing gravitational forces battled for dominance. Saturn's rings exploded outward in a cascade of ice and rock, then collapsed inward again as the chaotic gravitational environment tore at the giant planet. And Mars, that red harbinger of death, slowed its approach to Earth. For a moment, Zara dared to hope. The plan was working. They were disrupting the hegemony's control. The elegant precision of planetary mechanics the aliens had crafted was useless in the chaotic gravitational environment they'd created. Then the hegemony struck back. The response was immediate and terrifying. New gravitational fields were forming throughout the system, fields that dwarfed anything they had created. The hegemony ships, hidden in the outer reaches of the system, revealed themselves as massive constructs of black metal and humming energy. Commander, Beck called out nervously. They're not just moving planets anymore. They're moving star systems. The holographic display pulled back, showing not just their solar system but the stars around it. And they were moving, dragged by gravitational forces so intense that the very fabric of spacetime seemed to bend around them. They're going to collapse the local stellar group, Dr. Vasquez whispered. Create a black hole that will swallow everything. Within a dozen light years, the weight of impossible responsibility pressed down on Zara's shoulders. This was bigger than Earth, bigger than their system. The hegemony was willing to destroy entire star systems to eliminate the threat humanity represented. Admiral Torres, she called over the com. We need options. Now Torres's response was immediate. There's one more thing we can try. The gravitational resonance cannons weren't designed just for moving objects. They can also create stability in gravitational fields. Defensive gravitational. Wells, what are you suggesting? We create a gravitational singularity, an artificial black hole that we can use to absorb the hegemony's gravitational manipulations and redirect them back at their ships. It was such an insane idea that Zara needed a moment to process it. You want to create a black hole here, in our solar system. A small one, carefully controlled. It would act like an anchor, stabilizing the entire system against their manipulations. And if you lose control, there was a long pause from Torres. Then we die slightly faster than we would have otherwise. It came down to certain death versus possible survival. Surrender to the hegemony's superior technology, or hope that humanity's chaotic, unpredictable approach could overcome the impossible. Do it, Zara said. The next hour was controlled chaos. The gravitational resonance cannons were reconfigured, their targeting systems calibrated for a precision that had never been tested. The artificial singularity would be created at the solar system's gravitational center, the balance point, where competing forces would, theoretically, cancel each other out. Beginning singularity formation, Torres announced. All stations, brace for gravitational shockwaves in 15 seconds. Space around the sun began to warp. Reality bending as the combined energy of hundreds of gravitational resonance cannons focused on a single point. Even from Titan Station, the effect was visible, a dark spot that swallowed light itself. Singularity formation at 30%, Torres reported. Gravitational field stabilizing. The chaotic motion of the planets began to slow on the holographic display. The artificial black hole was acting as a gravitational anchor, absorbing the hegemony's orbital manipulations and keeping the planets from being flung into the void. 70%, Mars is returning to stable orbit. But the hegemony wasn't finished. Their ships moved closer, their own gravitational weapons targeting the artificial singularity. They were trying to destabilize it, to turn humanity's desperate gambit into an apocalypse. Singularity formation at 90%, Torres's voice strained with effort. But they're trying to overload it. If they succeed, the gravitational cascade will tear the entire system apart. Zara watched in horror as the hegemony ships poured energy into the artificial black hole. The singularity was growing, its event horizon expanding as it consumed the gravitational energy directed at it. Admiral, you need to shut it down, someone called out. It's becoming unstable. I can't, Torres replied. We're in a feedback loop. Shutting down the resonance cannons now would cause the singularity to collapse, taking half the system with it. They were trapped between impossible choices. Either let the singularity continue growing until it consumed the entire solar system, or shut it down and cause a gravitational collapse that would accomplish the same thing. Then Dr. Vasquez spoke up from her console. Commander, I'm detecting something unusual. The hegemony ships are pulling back from the singularity. Their gravitational readings are ... fluctuating. Fluctuating how? Like they're losing power. The singularity is feeding their own gravitational energy back at them, disrupting their systems. For a wild moment, hope flared in Zara's chest. They're not invincible after all. Their technology has limits, just like ours. More than that, Dr. Vasquez continued, her voice growing excited. Their systems are designed for precision-controlled, elegant orbital mechanics. What we're doing is too chaotic for their systems to handle. We're disrupting their own ships. Humanity had turned its greatest weakness into its greatest strength. Their chaotic, unpredictable approach to technology was overwhelming the refined, ancient systems of the hegemony, or stations. Zara ordered over the com. Prepare for maximum gravitational chaos. We're going to give them more randomness than they can handle. The response was immediate. This time, instead of the carefully synchronized firing pattern they'd used before, Every gravitational resonance device in the solar system fired at random intervals, creating a wild, chaotic barrage of gravitational waves that ricocheted through the system like cosmic pinballs. The effect on the hegemony vessels was immediate and devastating. The sleek black holes began to buckle as competing gravitational fields tore at them from all directions. One by one, their ships began to break apart, their ancient technology unable to cope with the twisted physics humanity had unleashed. Singularity stabilizing, Torres reported. The gravitational feedback is decreasing. On the holographic display, the alien vessels were retreating, pulling back toward the outer solar system. But their withdrawal wasn't orderly. Many ships showed signs of damage, their gravitational signatures erratic and unstable. A cracking transmission came through. "This is Commander Kane Meridian." The alien leader's voice was tight with barely controlled fury. "You are more resourceful than we anticipated. But this is not over. We will return when you have had time to consider the futility of your defiance." The transmission cut out, and the remaining hegemony vessels faded into the void beyond Pluto's orbit. They had their solar system back, but at a tremendous cost. The artificial singularity remained, suspended in space near the sun, a permanent reminder of how close they'd come to annihilation. Admiral Torres Zara called. "What's the status of the singularity?" "Stable for now," Torres replied, "but it's going to be a permanent part of the system. We'll have to recalculate all our orbital mechanics to account for its gravitational influence and the hegemony. They'll be back, but not soon. They have something new to consider, our chaotic approach to gravitational manipulation. They'll need time to adapt their technology to counter our unique methods." Zara nodded, exhaustion washing over her. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The hegemony would return, and when they did, they would be prepared for humanity's chaotic approach to the impossible. But for now, Earth was safe. Mars was returning to its proper orbit, and the other planets were gradually settling back into their ancient patterns. The solar system was wounded but whole, and humanity had learned something important about themselves. They might not have the elegant technology of ancient civilizations, but they had something equally valuable: the ability to find order in chaos, to create solutions from randomness, to make the impossible possible through sheer stubborn determination. "All stations," Zara announced, "begin system-wide damage assessment and rescue operations, and prepare for the next phase of this conflict. When the hegemony returns, we'll be ready for them." She looked out at the stars with new eyes. The universe was vast, and ancient powers moved planets like chess pieces, but humanity had proven something today. They belonged here, in this solar system, under these stars, and no matter how overwhelming the odds, they would continue to fight for their place in the universe. The gravitational echoes of their defiance would ring through space for generations, a song of chaos over order, of determination over despair. The orbital mechanics of the universe might be ancient and predictable, but humanity had made them variable, and in that variability lay their greatest strength. The stars continued their eternal dance, and humanity danced with them now, partners in the cosmic ballet. There would be challenges ahead that would test the very limits of human ingenuity and courage, but they had faced the impossible and emerged scarred but unbroken. And this, Zara thought as she watched the sun rise over Titan's methane seas, was only the beginning.